real like that, you ain't real like that. No, to tell the truth, you ain't built like that. Never. Summertime, so the roof peel right back. I'm living luxury, and last month I was living up in custody. Not police, then these models want cuffs on.
Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing the M57 reliability video. As nobody's really done this video, and I've been seeing on most of the tags and everything that a lot of people have been searching for this video. So we are going to be doing the M57 reliability, which we're going to do in a sec. I just wanted to also let you know the video that I uploaded the other day about the M52 straight pipe, I've now re-uploaded it. So if you go to my videos, you'll see I've re-uploaded it because people kept asking why is the sound cut out. So now I put all the sound in. The reason I took it out is because it was done for copyright, because it had the radio playing in the background the whole time. So I took the sound out, but I've now put the sound back in. So if you guys want to go and view it before probably YouTube demonetize it, or they probably remove it due to copyright, you can go and view it with the sound in. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is move to the M57 engine. I'm going to show you all the common things you've got to look for on that engine. Let's see if it's still reliable to this day and age. But we'll go and find out, and let's see how much all the parts cost, and let's do a breakdown. Okay guys, so as you can see here, this is the M57 engine. Now, as you'll see here, this is known as a diesel engine in the UK here and Europe. Everyone knows this engine. Now, as you'll see, the first common thing that always goes is the EGR valve, as you'll see here. This is the EGR valve. This is due for emissions. What it does is recirculate the harmful gases back in to the intake and burn them off inside the engine. Some people say they're good, some people say they're not good, but most people remove it for power, because when it gungs up, it can cause you to run loss of power and also start making diesel knock, which a lot of people are aware of. And it's not a good thing. Most people delete this and get rid of it, which we're going to be doing on this car. This is definitely going, and as you'll see, that's the whole cooler system for the EGR cooler. So I'm having to use a torch to lighten it, very good. And this is the EGR thermostat. This is a different thermostat to the other thermostat, which is down there, as well as the water pump. Now that's apparently been replaced, so Maz has told me, but I wouldn't trust that as it stands. They are a common problem, and you just delete it for the whole system here, as you'll see underneath all the pipes there, the charge pipes. You need to delete that, and it runs underneath there. We are going to be deleting this one on this car because they are a nuisance and they need to go. Next thing is the swell flaps. And as you'll know, the swell flap rail sits here, and if I can show you properly, the rail, the swell flap rail, it sits right down here, the swell flaps inside the cylinder here, not up here. And what you got to do is take them out, because they get sucked into the cylinder when they all get gunked up from the soot, as many of you know, and then they swallow into the cylinder and destroy the engine. I've had that many times, many times. We've seen this problem occur, and like I say, I'm not going to let it happen on this, so we're going to get rid of them ASAP. You know, it's a failure by BMW. After, I think, 2008, they changed it and got rid of them finally, and made another way to bring down the emissions. They were using them for emissions related purposes, but now we don't need them anymore. The next one is the vortex breather, which is this. This is the crankcase breather. As you guys know, on a petrol, use the CCV system. This one uses this. This is the oil breather system, and this is the old style one with the loo roll. It's not been changed to a Febby one, which I don't believe, which it ain't. No, it's original BMW part, as is what I said to Maz as well. It's never been changed, and this needs changing. What this does, this lubricates and keeps the oil separated for the turbo and helps the turbo breathe better. Now, Maz has told me this car has not been serviced for over 18,000 miles. Now, that for a diesel is really, really bad. Oil is very important for these cars, especially on the M57 engines, because these become very, very reliable providing you change the oil. These will make it to 300, 400, 500,000 miles with no issues. Now, this one hasn't had the oil change for 18,000 miles. I've told Maz it needs to be changed ASAP. I don't even know if there's still oil in this engine. Let's pull out the dipstick and let's see if there's any oil in the engine. Now, you see how black that is, guys? I'll just bring that out here. Now, diesel oil is black, but it shouldn't be that black. Now, that is really black. It's full, but it's black. Now, that ain't good. That means the oil's completely deteriorated and broke down. So we need to get that changed ASAP. Another common problem is the power steering pump on these. As you'll see, it's leaking. This is the power steering pump right here on the bully, and it's leaking all around the back there, as you'll probably see, all at the back of the system itself. Now, I don't know if that's just that, or it could be the pressure pump as well. The high pressure pump is here for the injectors, which I'm just trying to see and make sure that ain't leaking as well while I'm here. But that's all leaking as well, so we need to get this manifold off and see what all the leaks are. There is quite a few problems on this. I've told Maz about all the problems on these. These are common problems. The vacuum lines have been recently redone. As you guys know, the turbos on these don't use vanes like the normal big turbo, because of they're electronically controlled, and they don't use the same kind of setup as the big turbos. but it's still use a turbo. Now, as you'll see down there as well, that's the turbo wastegate, and I can see that's covered in oil. So that's losing boost right there alone. Now, that needs to be changed. As you'll see, that's covered in oil. This is the turbo here, and the turbo is quite oily, as you'll see. Right there, it's all got oil all over it, so the turbo oil lines might need replacing as well. That's another common problem on these that you need to be aware of. And they're not cheap either. The vortex breather is like £50. Swell flaps are £30. EGR blank with the whole system, I believe it's £90 from X8R. You need to be careful of that. The vacuum pump here, the vacuum pump for the diesel, that's another thing that it can be very, very expensive. It's about £110 for a good one of those. A Febby one or original dealer parts, I think, are 180. They're quite expensive, and you have to be aware of them. They can cause a lot of problems. Same as the high pressure fuel sensor, which sits underneath here for the injectors. You need to be careful as well. It sits over the back there. It's because obviously, as you guys know, this is a common rail diesel. High pressure fuel sensor is right here, and you need to be careful of that. This can cause a lot of bugs and problems and cause your car not to start. It's common on the diesels. As I say though, the majority of them is changing the oil on this. Another common problem on the diesels, as many of you know, and it's common, is the gearbox on these. They fail, and when they fail, you know it's going to fail regardless of remap or not. The diesel gearboxes, especially on the 545 diesels, they're over torqued. You can't expect them not to fail. From factory, BMW put up the PSI, that's the whole point of the 535 diesel. They put up another turbo in it. These are completely way torqued up, and the way you got to see it is it's going to fail regardless of remap or not. So I do say to people, don't remap it because you're putting less life on your car, but in the same sense, it's always going to fail regardless you like it or not. The same thing is you don't want to let your turbos fail, and if you hear a whistling, you want to get them changed immediately. Try and look after the turbos on these, because as you guys know, unless you've got a manual, these cars like to do turbo run away, and if you're on the motorway and the next thing your turbo cars is give up, your turbo will just rev the shit out of the car, throw all this oil out the engine and destroy the engine. That's another common problem with these. I've seen many of them do that, but it's not very common because most people look after their cars and change the oil regularly. But as you'll see here, this one has not been looked after, and this is the oil cooler itself. As I see down here, this is the oil filter housing on the diesels. It's completely different to the way it is on a petrol, and that it looks like it's leaking. It could be leaking from there as well. As I said, we need to get it off. This is all the water hoses that need to be checked. There's a lot of oil down there. I need to get this off and just check where it's leaking from. This car has been very badly neglected. As I say, it needs a lot of maintenance to bring it back up to a perfect running car. The air filter is going to need changing. I checked this. This is all badly messed up. It looks like someone's been running through pigeons or letting pigeons in the car. Track control arms, they're quite expensive. They're working out at least £120 a side. That's just for the wishbones. Then you've got the drop links, and then you've got the track control arms. They're really expensive. It's working out at £200. That's a common problem on the diesels. Most parts companies know that, and they charge a fortune. Injectors is another common problem on these. They like to fail when they do. They're also a bastard to get out when they get stuck in there, and my god, they are a very hard headache. There's the injectors right here. They're not hard to change, you know, they're right there, but Jesus Christ, they're a pig to get out. That's the main, and as you'll see, they're literally seized in, all the rust around them. The glow plugs sit right down here. If I can show you, just trying to see if I can show you them. They sit right down here on the cylinder itself, underneath the manifold. You probably won't be able to see them on the camera until I take the manifold out, but yes, they sit on the manifold, and you just have to be aware that, like I say, they are a pig to get to. And like I said, I can see oil leaks coming from everywhere underneath there. I don't know if you can possibly see on the camera, but I can see it coming off the hoses and literally everywhere. Now what I think is the manifold's leaking through the gaskets and leaking the oil and the soot all onto the engine block itself. That's my bit, but I do know the power steering pipes have gone on this as well. That 100%. What we don't know is if the boost pipe's leaking. As you see here, this boost pipe right there, I don't know if you can see it, it's all crunched in. So that to me is showing it's got a leak already, because as you'll see, look, that shouldn't be flat like that, the boost pipe. It's meant to flare out, so that to me means it's trapped on something. As you'll see there, that's the boost pressure sensor. To know about for the charge pipe, you've got to be careful of that. They like to fail as well. But as you'll see, this hose is very flat, and that needs to be changed. That's another one that needs to be changed. It shouldn't be that flat like it is there, and that's about £80. They're quite hard to find because it's a common problem. But as I said, reliability wise, these cars are reliable provided they're maintained. Now when I had my diesel, they weren't like this on the 530 diesel, but you've got to expect, this isn't my car, this is Maz's car. He got it from a guy. It has been very well neglected. I'm therefore going to bring this car back up to scratch, you know, from being what it is now. It's not the best car. By far, it's going to take a lot of work to get this back solid, this car back solid. Probably going to need all new piping. I'm probably going to redo all the vacuum lines anyway, because they look quite bad, to be honest, even though they've been changed. Who knows how long ago they were changed. Obviously Maz don't have the service history of it. He sent me the other way he purchased it. I need to check all the sensors, as I can probably see down there. The sensors as well are quite burned out on the DPF system, so I don't know, that one looks quite frayed and burnt out. So we need to sort that one out as well. You see, because thing is, I notice things on these cars other people don't, and you know, at the end of the day, I've got to go over everything. At the end of the day, I weighed it up earlier of everything this car needs alone, and it's come up to over nearly £1,400 just on the parts for this car alone. Now, with Maz paying me labour, we don't know what that's going to cost. Me and Maz are in talks at the moment about what to do with this car, because he might feel he needs to break it, might feel that he wants to get it sorted, but as I said to him, we can sort them problems, but other problems will arise on this car. The gearbox still can fail, the turbo still can fail, and you've got to remember, when I'm taking off old parts on this and replace it with new parts, you're putting the engine on more strain, because you're putting new parts which are solid, where it's been used to having running on crappy parts like this for a long time. So I'm going to be changing the oil, doing an engine flush, and then, like I said to Maz, the problem still won't stop there. He could be driving this back from me on his way back home, and the gearbox could fail. You never know, unless you've got access to a RAM, and that could cost him a big job. On these gearboxes, a new torque converter is about £400, and labour on it is about another £500. I've seen bills for the gearbox to be rebuilt on this for £1,500. Nobody knows when it's going to fail. Do they fail? Yes, they do fail. They are prone to fail unless you change the gearbox fluid. And like I said to Maz, if we add the gearbox filter and the fluid on top of that, and obviously he wants this car fully done up properly, we're looking at another £300 just on that alone. You know, and by the time I rent the ramp space, and Maz will have to pay for that each day, which is like £50 a day for me to rent a ramp. You know, we're looking at even more money, and it's more money, and this is what these cars are. They can become endless money pits, especially when this car's had nearly 10 owners, sorry, and it's been treated by God knows how many owners. You'd think in the UK that's a lot of owners on a diesel car, and as a lot of British guys know, these cars pass owners like anything, the 5.5 diesel, because everyone wants them for the power to shaft, but then when they go wrong, people want rid of them. And the problem is, as you guys are probably aware, in the UK, you know, they go to the wrong kind of people. A lot of young people get them because of the power they deliver. And 10 owners, that's 10 different driving styles. You don't know what's been replaced in this, what hasn't. You know, at the end of the day, there's a lot that needs to come off. We need to replace it. I believe these cars are still reliable to this day and age, so highly. They are reliable, providing you look after them. As everyone says about oil change, but that's not the case. On a big turbocharged car like this with 2 turbos, you have to maintain it thoroughly and strongly. Like I've always said, these cars are solid. Diesel engines, they don't really leak oil. That oil leak is probably coming from the bottom of the manifold where the swell flaps are, and probably leaking out. We will find out when we get the manifold off. At the end of the day, we're not doing no work on it just yet. But as I said to you, all the leaks on this are usually due to, it's nothing to do with rocker cover. It's nothing like the petrol engines. They don't leak from the rocker covers on these. They don't leak at all. They're just under a lot of extreme pressure. And when people, and you've got to think, when the turbo's using forced induction, it's putting a lot of pressure on gaskets. It's putting a lot of pressure on everything on the engine itself. So you've got to think, the more pressure on this engine, the more things are going to wear. So that's why everyone, when they get these, they usually treat them right. But as I said, with 10 owners, you're going to expect this. This is a lot of work. The springs are rubbing on the tyres. I've told Maz about that. The springs are completely collapsed on the driver's side. They're rubbing on the tyres. We need to get them wheels off. I need to do the springs. There's a lot that needs to be done. This car requires a lot of work. As you'll see here, the headlights are deteriorated, as I showed you in my previous video on this car. But also the wiring, someone's done it with gaffer tape. He's lucky he didn't have fire. The gaffer tape's still here holding the cover on, and you've got to think these are Xenons, that are bi-adaptive headlights. You know, the car needs a lot. One of the headlights ain't working because someone's cut the wiring loom in there, and the wiring loom is still redone up. You know, there is a hell of a lot to do on this car. The oil definitely needs changing, and that is key to looking after these diesels, is changing the oil regularly. Providing you change the oil regularly, the turbos, the engine itself will run forever, because the oil lubricates these engines. These cars run and need to be lubricated properly, all the pumps and everything. That's why you cannot let these get on reserves, because the diesel lubricates everything on this engine. And the same with the oil. If you run out of any of them, they are not like a petrol. Providing you do that, these cars are very, very sturdy and will last. These are more reliable than the petrol units, and take that for a fact. Any UK person will agree with me here. These are very, very strong, capable units. In Turkey and places like that, the army will buy these in a shot because of how powerful these engines are, especially the X5s. A lot of other countries, European countries as well, will buy these in instant, the diesels, because they're bulletproof engines. Very, very reliable. Rover was using them in their MGs, the M57 engine. A lot of different companies were using this engine. Range Rover themselves were using these in their Range Rovers here, the M57 engine, because of how bulletproof these are and solid. They don't go wrong. The majority of the time they go wrong is usually gearbox and lack of ownership on people on the turbos. I've seen a lot of turbo failures. Providing you shut this car off and you get it done when you hear it whistling, or when you know the turbine's got play, which you can check because the turbos just sit down here. You can check the turbine itself there when obviously the engine ain't hot. And what you can do then is just check to make sure that it's got no play in the shaft. If it ain't got no play, then you're good. As I said, providing you don't let it get run away and the engine gets destroyed, you have a very, very solid unit capable of doing 500,000 miles. This is why a lot of people in the US have been saying to me, these are never that powerful. Trust me, BMW didn't build this to pull. Everyone thinks, diesels in America for pulling. This car was not built for pulling. You go on the BMW's website on Wikipedia, they built this car but for a performance, BMW. That's why it's so fast and so talky the way it is. They did not pull this for pulling caravans and pulling stuff out of the dirt. Trust me on that. Would they build an M Sport car to pull out of the dirt? No chance. They had a 535 diesel normal, but not an M Sport one, mate. Most people use these for racing. These cars are solid units, and trust me, they are built for power. The power these deliver, you guys will never understand because you will never get to drive one. But these cars deliver absolute beastly power, and it's not a joke. Providing they're looked after, these cars are very, very quick. And as I say, I've got the 530i. This is 535 diesel. Like I said, mine's punching about the same bhp, but never the same amount of torque. The torque on this is absolutely insane. And like I say, these cars are one of the best engines you can get. The M57, M57. Remember that, it's not N, it's M for mother. So as I say, these engines is a performance engine, and people in the UK use them for performance. And as I've said, many people agree with me in the UK, these can smoke most petrol cars. I've got people in the UK telling me, put that up against a false induction petrol. Listen, I'm telling you now, my friends have M54 engine, they've got the 335i, and I'm telling you, when my friend's got one of these as well, 535 diesel. This thing pisses my friend's 335i, hands down, mate. The 335i has no chance. Standard, the 335i has, take my word for that as well. You seem to forget here in the UK, I've got a lot of friends with BMs. That's all my friends drive because they're all foreign. They can afford every single different car there is to man. They get every new BMW, and I'm telling you, they've got the M54 engine. They've also got the M3, and this can keep up with an M3 remapped, mate. It can also keep up with an M5. And like I said to you, if you don't believe me, instead of taking my word for it, just go and type in YouTube BMW 535 diesel versus whatever you want to put, and go and look at the Top Gear video that Jeremy Clarkson done on this car. This car could keep up with the 545i and still smash the 545i when these cars were new. And if you don't believe me, there's a Top Gear video right up there on YouTube. I don't need to lie to you about this engine. This engine is what it is. I know there's a lot of American guys doing reviews about these cars like they know about them. Listen, there's a lot of European guys, and I rate them. They commented to the US guy telling him he knew nothing about it. He didn't know what he was talking about, because they don't get the models we get here. The model he got was 300 brake, mate. The models we get here of the 535, these are like 350 brake, because they're M Sport ones. That's the standard edition. They have no idea about the diesels. He didn't know what he was talking about. Another common problem on these, as I'm going to tell you now, is the DPF. But like I said, I've already told Maz, we're going to take this to my exhaust shop. The DPF's coming off. We're going to straight pipe the whole lot. We're going to get rid of the DPF. They'll remove the DPF as well. We're going to get rid of the whole system. EGR, DPF, swell flaps, getting rid of everything emissions related, to completely transform this car. And then like I said, once this car's been transformed, this car will ride and drive perfect. And like I said, if I get the chance, if I can get my friends to come back up here, because he only just left last week, I'll get him to come up with his 335i, because I didn't have this last week, and I'll show you American guys how fast this car is once it's done up against a 335i. Because you guys, I'm sorry, you guys like to think your petrols are fast, and I know you don't want to see that, but unfortunately I'm going to show you how fast the diesel is, because luckily I'll show you in this car how quick this will smoke out a 335i. And you guys don't want to believe me, as I said, there's many videos on YouTube showing you. Just go and punch in 535 diesel. These cars are very, very beastly. You know, even Jeremy Clarkson was surprised how fast the diesel can be. And you guys in America will have no idea, because you'll never get to drive them. And it's shameful, very shameful. But unfortunately, you don't get M Sport, so unfortunately you can't get them. But these are not a pulling car. Take my word for that. This car is not a pulling car. Yeah, this car is built for speed and performance, and that's what people use them here for in the UK. People don't get these to pull a caravan and pull bloody tractors and whatever else. These are only come into hands like my hands and young people's hands. They don't go into old people's hands in the US. These come into people's like my hands. Yeah, people who know how to handle them. An old person would shit their life in this. The same as Maz, for instance. He's 52 and he doesn't like the power of this car. He doesn't like it. Yeah, so that just shows you an old person doesn't like the power of what these cars can deliver. So that just shows, that's why they come to people like us, because we know how to handle them. you know. So at the end of the day, guys, is this engine still reliable? Of course it's still reliable. It's still reliable as long as you make it reliable. And as I said, I trust this engine more than I trust a petrol engine. Why? This doesn't have the kind of problems a petrol does. It doesn't use Van or solenoids. It doesn't use any of that. It's a forced induction engine, yes, but it's super reliable providing you change that oil. If you change that oil, it's always key to the oil on these cars. Providing you change the oil and use the best quality diesel, I always say to everyone, use Shell V-Power diesels. Providing you use that, you'll have a solid, stable M57N engine. So thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is BMW Dr. Dean here. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you very much for watching. And as I said to you, please go and check out my M52 straight pipe with all the sound on so you guys can see it before hopefully YouTube take it down. Thank you very much and goodbye.